Police say 19-year-old John Prince of Cooks Hill was driving this Falcon sedan south when he veered onto the wrong side of the road, colliding head-on with the Falcon station wagon. Driving behind this car was Tony Chidiak.
Here I was trying to swerve all the bits and pieces, and the Ford was heading towards me and I swerved away from her. I got onto my car phone and called the fire brigade, police rescue and ambulances and anyone that could get here so quick.
Rescue personnel were able to release the 28-year-old Kurrumbong woman driver of the station wagon and a 7-year-old boy within minutes of arriving at the scene, airlifting them to the Royal Newcastle Hospital by Westpac rescue helicopter. She had a broken elbow and cuts. The boy suffered cuts and head injuries. But the sedan driver was trapped by his leg for an hour and a half before he was airlifted to hospital with a fractured thigh and lower leg injuries. A motorcyclist behind the sedan was unable to avoid the crash. Christopher Corbett, 29, of Dora Creek, was taken by road to the Mater Hospital with back injuries, with his 16-year-old pillion passenger Raymond Wilson, who received head injuries. Police are investigating.
Mark Sleben has been pushing his body to the limit for the last 7 months, and that's just half of it.
First thing is obviously to prepare your mind. You've got to be able to handle the sitting there doing push-ups, rest. So there's a lot of mind training as well.
Fellow martial artist Gary Johnson has also been hard at work, attaining the level of fitness he'll need to stamp his name in the record books.
There was a Guinness Book of World Records which was 3,600 kicks in an hour. I'll be attempting 2,500 kicks in half an hour. Now that will be a record. Maybe not to the Guinness people, but for the martial arts side of it, yeah, there'll be a kicking record.
The pair have organised a gala martial arts display they hope will attract a huge crowd to the Central Coast Leagues Club this Sunday and raise a hefty sum for a worthy cause.
Actually, me and Gary about 6-7 months ago came up with sort of, if we both did feats, we could try and get champions on the day, and we could all sort of put a joint effort into raising money for cot death.
Just don't try to slip in there without paying.
Two semi-trailers hit on the Bayswater Creek Bridge near Liddell at 11 last night. Police say a northbound Carey's freighter carrying soybean oil, Scotch whisky and pool chemicals veered onto the wrong side of the road, ramming into the southbound TNT truck, which was laden with fruit.
Obviously every accident is horrific that you attend, but this is definitely one of the worst ones.
The northbound driver, 31-year-old Anthony Charles Moore from Tamworth, was killed instantly. The other driver, Archie Stogianopoulos, 39, from Melbourne, died on the way to hospital. Incredibly, his passenger walked away with abrasions and shock. This morning, firemen using special foam began the long job of cleaning up the road. Traffic was diverted around the accident scene for 14 hours. This stretch just north of Singleton is fast becoming a black spot on the highway. The double fatality last night is just one in a series of tragic crashes. A cross beside the bridge signifies this. Just 2 months ago, another truck driver was killed. Locals say there have been 8 serious smashes in the last 12 months, and they want something done.
Probably going to take another bus crash, just like Grafton, to get anything done around here. The roads are very uneven, canvas on it, it's just, the whole roads are just way out of whack around here at the moment.
Some police believe Ted Pickering's plan to gut the rescue squad is ill-conceived. It reminds them of the Pole Air fiasco, when the minister decided to scrap the air wing, but was eventually persuaded his decision was wrong.
All those in favour, raise their hand.
Rescue squad officers are now hoping the minister will have another change of heart. They've approved tough action if the squad's 11 outer suburban and country bases are closed in favour of the fire brigade.
No police officer will undertake the training of rescue personnel from other services.
Police, as rescue people, are concerned about public safety, and that's all. We're not interested in inter-service rivalry. We're interested about the public and the fact that they have the best service.
But the threat to withdraw training expertise doesn't faze Mr Pickering. He says if the rescue squad won't cooperate, he'll look elsewhere. And for police intent on rescue work, the Minister says they can transfer to the fire brigade. It's a suggestion sure to inflame already heated police emotions when the rescue squad meets Mr Pickering tomorrow.
It was all part of the outfit for collecting Harvard University's annual Man of the Year award. The big man took it all in his stride. Meet Mardi. Rock and roll heavyweights MC Hammer, Quincy Jones and Mariah Carey have scooped the pool at the Grammy Awards, with Paul Collins winning the prestigious Best Single award with Just Another Day in Paradise.
It is a complicated 8 or 9 point program that has been agreed upon by the Soviets and the Iraqis. Point 1 states that the Iraqis will withdraw from Kuwait unconditionally. Point 2, the withdrawal after the second day, which will occur on the second day after a cessation of hostility. Point 3, after 2/3 of the forces have been withdrawn from Kuwait, economic sanctions against Iraq would cease. Point 4, after the end of the withdrawal, all resolutions passed by the UN Security Council would cease to be in effect. Part 5, under the ceasefire period, all POWs, all prisoners of war, would be immediately released on both sides. The next point involves the monitoring of this withdrawal. It would be monitored by a force of chosen by the UN, those that were not members of the original anti-Iraq coalition.
The study compiled by the Hunter Economic Development Council was presented to State Development Minister John Hannaford this morning at City Hall. It states that if investment in the region is to occur during the next 20 years, then the port and local air facilities must be upgraded.
The upgrading of the port, and when I say upgrading, I mean to diversify the port into things other than coal, so that it starts to generate business activity in imports and exports of a range of products. Secondly is the Williamtown Airport. I think that's very important, as the Minister said, because you can't really have a successful region without a good transport system coming into it.
Not since he won the Australian Junior Bantamweight title in 1982 has Craig Peavy wanted a crown as badly, and he desperately wanted to take it away from the unbeaten Cornet. But it was the latter who got the best of the early exchanges. Back came Peavy to signal his intentions. For the first 6 rounds, it was the Cardiff veteran who did the hard work, but was lucky to stay standing towards the end of that round. There's no love lost between Peavy and Cornet, and in round 8, plenty of drama. With stinging combinations, Peavy continued the attack and tried to remove his opponent with more than punching. Cornette knew he was behind and had one last dip. It was up to the judges, with the referee scoring the fight 115 points each, and Peavy got the nod from the first judge by 2 points, and then the sound he had waited for.
I suppose it's the best thing that's ever shook my life, and I put it in the training that I needed to put in. I was confident all the way that I could beat him.
It wasn't hard to figure out that the $5,000 Costa BMW Challenge has a touch of class about it, the expensive machinery making the entrance to Lake Macquarie Yacht Club quite impressive. On the water, equally impressive was the 130-odd entries in this weekend's regatta, making this one of the largest fleets to assemble for a yacht classic. However, the starting line was anything but a tranquil setting, with boats vying for all important positions, and on no less than 2 occasions they were recalled for breaking the line. Eventually they were underway, and as expected it was the Maxi New Zealand-designed Ozfire who immediately leapt to the lead, along with young Einstein. At the first mark it was Ozfire who rounded in front, and she set her spinnaker quickly and headed off towards Pulbur Island. Ozfire's danger yacht Buckle Up made a meal of the start, but as she rounded the mark and set her spinnaker, she was able to close the gap on the rest of the fleet. But it was Ozfire who has gained line honours in the 30-mile race, from Buckle Up 12 minutes back and a further 3 minutes back to Let's Go. On Newcastle Harbour, 3-times world champion Rod Brown continues to dominate the Foster's 18-foot skiff challenge. After winning his 2 heats yesterday, Brown thrashed his opposition again today to record another 2 wins and remain undefeated. Julian Bethwaite's AAMI, the overall series champion, now trails Prudential by 31 points and would need a miracle to finish on top. After all the drama of yesterday's racing, Bank of New Zealand, skippered by Scott Ramsden, was looking towards a trouble-free day, and although he did experience some difficulties, he did finish second in Heat 4. Xerox was third in Heat 4, while Remington Pitney Bowes filled the minor placing in Heat 3.
Looking at Beau Rogers today, it seems hard to believe he's ever had to do it tough. Plump, shiny and contented, he basks in the knowledge that he's the apple of the Rogers family's eye. But it was a vastly different Beau that graced our cameras just 8 months ago. That was when the RSPCA was called to the Maryland property where he'd virtually been left to die. Frighteningly thin and covered in mange, his plight had already captured the attention and the sympathy of Phil Rogers.
I used to walk quite often down past the paddock where he was, and I used to feed him firstly on grass that I'd pick from the outside of the fence, and then I took him some bread down that we had left over. And once a week I used to go to Duffy's at Wall's End, and I used to get the leafy scraps and I used to feed him on those.
After the RSPCA stepped in and removed Beau, Phil lost track of him, but fate played a part in their reunion 2 months later, when Phil noticed something familiar about the new addition at his local riding school.
I asked if I could ride him, and after I rode him, the friendship sort of grew, and we then decided to ask the lady who ran the riding school whether we could buy him or not.
Since that day, it's been easy street all the way for Beau. Doted on by Phil, his wife Dell and daughter Sarah, he's groomed, exercised, fed and just generally adored.
He's just become a family member, I suppose, now, and we love him.
The RSPCA failed to locate Beau's original owner to prosecute for neglect, and Phil is fearful, especially in these hard economic times, that still more people are following the same path. But he insists there is always an alternative.
There's plenty of people out there who would love to have a horse and to look after it. So if anybody's in sort of trouble with their horse, maybe just to seek help.
There's nothing like a good day at the races, the finest in thoroughbred horses carrying your hard-earned money, and the exhilaration of taking on the bookies. The scenario: you've been given a red-hot tip at the juicy odds of 10 to 1. On goes your last $10, and invariably the horse you backed is in an unbeatable position as they hit the straight. But as the race reaches its final stages, your horse is nowhere to be seen running around the tail of the field. And what do? Tear up your ticket. Stop. That losing ticket is now worth money, from Sydney bookie Mark Duffin, who fields in Newcastle and who was hit on a novel scheme in returning 5% of your losing bet. But why give a mug a break?
The situation was that the holes had dropped up here, and it was either that or give the game away up here.
How have you found it since you've made the move?
Well, our turnover has increased by about 200%.
What sort of reaction did you get from the other bookmakers?
They weren't very happy in the beginning, but now we find that most of them bet back with us.
Jack Freeman was a leading bookmaker for 37 years, and although he's never seen anything like this, he can understand the reasons behind the move.
Our attitudes have all changed in recent times, and bookies also have had a little struggle to... they've got to be a bit innovative, and I think people's approach to it is different now. You know, he's obviously making a success of it, and all those things do help racing in general.
For Mark, it's a case of looking after the general punter and not so much the credit better.
A lot of the bookmakers up here have a lot of credit punters. I have about 3. I'd sooner give the cash punters a little bit back rather than entice the credit punters.
And will it last?
Well, it's caught on already. You know, I've been doing it here for about 5 months, and I've lasted.
As a prelude to the carnival, the Beaufort Club hosted their traditional luncheon at the Building Centre today, and amongst the relaxed atmosphere, a tinge of sadness, as 2 long-serving members of the Jockey Club announced their retirements. Mal Wolford has been a member of the NJC board for an incredible 26 years, and Dr Kevin Johns joined the board in 1982. Both men have been integral parts in the development of the complex at Broadmeadow. The Coca-Cola Classic has drawn a top field with 2 standouts. Torres was beaten into second place in the William Inglis in January, but was desperately unlucky not to win. Torres's main danger should be Biscaday, and if he reproduces last Wednesday's form, he will be hard to toss. To get the good oil as to the likely trifecta, NBN's racing supremo, Gary Harley.
Mike, I like number 1, Torres. I think he's a good thing, actually, in the Coca-Cola bottlers. He was the best of good things beaten in the Inglis Classic, the $1 million race, on the 5th of January at Rose Hill. He'd won his previous 3 starts, and he'll find conditions ideal here. Number 2, Biscaday's the obvious danger, trained by Bart Cummings. John Marshall will ride him. An outstanding win last Wednesday at Randwick, and I do know the Cummings stable are confident that they can beat Torres. And for 3rd, I've put in the local number 3, Delphinus, trained by John Blim. Wayne Harris will ride him. A nice second to no joking in the Slipper Prelude at Gosford back on the 31st of January.
After their stunning performance to beat the Balmain Tigers in Bundaberg in the first round of the Cup, the Knights must go into Wednesday night's fixture full of confidence. With the backs and the forwards in top form, it's a tough job for the selectors to name a starting 13. Instead, they have selected 19 with 2 to be admitted. New recruit Mike McLean comes into the squad, as does youngster Adrian Brunker and Gary Worth, who is returning from injury. David Thorne also comes into the squad. A likely team is Worth, Gordon, Doyle, McCormack, Miller, Hagan, Lanane, Glanville, Boyd, McLean, Hoogerworth, Carter and Johnston. It would be a big coup as well as another timely boost to the bank account of the Knights if they can beat the Broncos, and a reminder that NBN will bring you a full replay at 8:30 on Wednesday evening.
The Newcastle Council-funded City Centre Committee has spent the past year trying to solve the inner city's economic problems, and its annual report released today claims success. It says retailers increased their Christmas turnover by 18% on 1989 figures and are now trading at a higher level than before the earthquake, unlike the rest of Australia. But though Newcastle Council is continuing to fund the committee this year, by next, businesses may have to chip in.
We're looking for the implementation of a very important city centre benefit rate, a levy on the rates for every building owner without exception. It's done elsewhere, it has to be done here, and this will provide us with the money, the marketing funds, the development funds, the management funds that we need to really market the whole of the CBD as a single entity.
The next 12 months will concentrate on upgrading the Hunter Mall and improving city centre parking, as well as helping to motivate and market 600 retailers.
In the windows, light it, make little theatre sets, you know, be totally outrageous, like you haven't been to my talks yet, have you? But you will come, won't you?
Motivational speaker and retail expert Frank Arnold is conducting those seminars this week at Newcastle City Hall. But perhaps a harder job for the City Centre Committee will be attracting new investors.
This is a long, hard haul because Newcastle's reputation outside Newcastle is little short of abysmal, but we're working in a number of ways to overcome that and to ensure that the perception of Newcastle is a good place to invest, a good place to live, and a great place for all kinds of businesses, like the rest of Australia is perceived to be.
Demolition crews levelled the site for the 400-bed hospice in the western corner of the Mater Hospital this afternoon. Work on the hospice should begin within days and the $4 million project will be completed by the end of the year. The hospice is attached to the Mater Hospital's oncology unit, which has been the target of ongoing telethon support. The community's $1.4 million donation to the project will be supported by a government contribution through capital works of a further $2 million, the balance to be covered by the Hunter Area Health Service. When completed, the hospice will provide a caring and personal environment for terminally ill patients, which will be staffed by trained palliative care nurses. With 11 runners involved in today's meeting, Max Lees hardly had time to consider his chances in tomorrow's Newmarket. He'll turn out Magic Gleam and Quicksilver Cindy in the feature event, but is no more than mildly confident about their chances.
It's a very hard race, you know, there's a lot of chances in the race, and I'm just hoping. Magic Gleam's probably the best of my chances because he's drawn better than the other mare and he's racing consistent, but it is a very open race.
How have the pair been working during the week?
They both work good, both work very well, but as I said, you know, there's a lot of chances in the race.
Lees has won the race twice before and also trained last year's second place getter Galley Star. Still, the 91 field is bristling with class and Lees knows it.
I thought Ricochet Rosie'd be very hard to beat. You know, Nick Dittman's riding her and she's going her first run back was very good, so she's got to be hard.
NBN tipster Gary Harley agrees, going for the gallant grey to get the money from Livingstone Lane and last year's winner, Comrade.